probably the most versatile food, I think. And chef, correct me if I'm wrong. Potatoes.
Yeah, you can do a lot with potatoes, Nabil.
And I have, and I definitely have, and I look forward to doing more because I know we're going to do something quite unique with potatoes that we haven't done in the past. Um, and so let's get started, guys. I want to respect the time for those who have signed up online. So before we begin, it's always important to acknowledge the land that we're on, Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. As we talk about food and we talk about cooking and this wonderful holiday season, it's important to know where the food comes from. It comes from the land, and we want to acknowledge where it comes from, and we also want to appreciate and ensure that we're treating the land fairly because it provides us with so much. And so we in turn need to take care of the land that we are on. With that being said, everybody, as I'm sure you are aware by now, some participation guidelines. You can always use the chat box below if you have any questions or comments for Chef Laura. You can also privately message me if you have any issues with your IT connection, or unless otherwise instructed, let's keep ourselves on mute. And most importantly, let's respect one another and each other's perspective. And today is a fantastic show, guys. We are going to be talking about potatoes, as we mentioned, and this is something that's part of our rescued food program. So if you guys aren't already aware, every month we release a how to cook with rescued food, and potato is normally a staple that people who are taking, utilizing those services find in their food items. And so, chef, what are we going to be making with rescued food today?
So today we are going to make a gluten-free lemon cake. Instead of using flour, we're going to use ground almonds and we're going to use mashed potato. So it's a pretty unique way to use potato. Potato is very versatile. There's very many varieties. We were given russet potatoes. So russet potatoes are considered to be a very starchy potato. So they're great for baking. They tend to fluff up or flake a little bit once they're cooked and they're mashed. But they're a potato that definitely doesn't hold their shape. So they would be great for baking, for frying, but they wouldn't be good as a potato, let's say for a potato salad. That would be a more waxy potato. But potatoes you can actually use in a lot of different recipes. They're filling. They're generally inexpensive. So it's definitely a good staple to have in your home. So we are going to, well, I have already peeled and made a mashed potato with the russet potato. So what I've got here is I've got 1 cup of cooled mashed potatoes. So just straight mashed potato, nothing else in it. I didn't have a potato masher here, so I just used a fork and I just took out all the lumps so that it's somewhat smooth here. Okay, so we're gonna put that aside. And we're gonna just start by creaming our butter. So I've got unsalted butter here. So we're just gonna put this into our mixer with a cup of sugar. So this is called the creaming method. So we're just gonna incorporate a little bit of air into our butter. And we're just going to cream it until it's light and fluffy.
Chef Laura, I have a question. When we're utilizing potatoes and mashed potatoes in particular instead of flour, is there going to be any difference in the consistency of our cake?
The consistency will be a little bit different. The texture of the cake actually is very similar to a cake made with ricotta cheese, if anybody has ever had that. So it's a little bit more, it's not as smooth on the tongue per se, like as you would have like with like a pound cake. Like it's the crumb is a little bit more open, if that makes
Nice.
any sense.
It does to me, chef. It does to me.
Yeah. I'm just gonna put this on high for a minute. And what we're looking for is just to have our butter turn a little bit lighter in color. So if you don't have a mixer, that's okay. You can use a hand mixer, or you could do it by hand. I'm just going to scrape the bottom of my bowl here.
And for anybody watching, guys, feel free to follow along. If you're comfortable doing so, you can share, you can show us your video of what it is that you're doing. We will be delighted to have see your product, as I'm sure Chef will be as well.
Okay. So now that our mixture is, it's nice and light in color, we're gonna add our eggs. We are gonna use 4 eggs. So I am going just to actually crack them one at a time into a bowl here. The reason I'm doing this is that sometimes if you are using a lot of eggs in a recipe, it's best to do this in case one is a little bit off, and then that way you don't ruin your whole recipe. So I'm just going to mix in 1 egg at a time, and we're going to fully incorporate. So the reason we do this is because if you put all your eggs in at once, it's going to cause the mixture to curdle because you're putting in a lot of liquid into a lot of fat. Okay, so that was 2 eggs. So I'm just going to scrape down my bowl. There we go. Okay, let's go for egg number 3.
Chef, another question.
Yes.
Can you, in this case, could you just use egg whites or just egg yolks, or do you need the full egg?
The full egg is going to give the cake a little bit more body. If you're concerned, you could use just egg whites. The structure just might be a little bit different. I like to personally have the whole egg because of the protein in the egg yolk. It just helps with the stabilization of your cake. But you could use just egg whites if you wanted. It would just be a little bit more airy. If you wanted to be really creative, you could change the recipe a little bit and just have egg whites, but I would actually beat them first and then fold them in.
Right. And our good friend Tanya has just asked us, how can you make this recipe vegan?
So that's a great question. So you can use a butter alternative. I personally love melt. I like to use that one at home. For the eggs, you can actually make your own eggs from flax meal, sorry. So basically you just mix flax meal and some water, and that would make that makes 1 egg. So then you would just correspond how many eggs you would need for your recipe with the amount of flax and water. So basically I just mix it in a little bowl and I let it sit for a few minutes until it starts to congeal. And then I would go ahead and use it in my recipe.
Awesome. I hope our good friends who are vegan are listening, because that is a fantastic suggestion. And you know, Chef, we have tried this dish vegan, and it tastes fantastic. And this is coming from somebody who's not a vegan. So
yes, it's really good. And when you're using your flax meal, you're getting a hit of your omegas.
Right.
So very good for you too. So I'm just going to put this on high for a sec here, just to make sure everything's incorporated. So it looks good. All right. So here, I'm just going to take off the paddle just for a second, just because I think it's a little bit easier for you guys to see what's inside there. So what we're going to do now that we've added the eggs one at a time, we're going to add in our mashed potato. So this just goes all in. I know, who would have thought, right?
I was just wondering the same thing. Is this something you thought of, Chef?
No, actually, I'm going to give a shout out to Willamdale Farms. This is one of their recipes that I found online, and I've made it at home, and it was absolutely delicious. They've got great recipes on their website, and they are a huge supplier, obviously, to a lot of our grocery stores, and I'm sure that they contribute to into the bags at Food for Life.
Right, right. That is so awesome. It's interesting how creative food can be, right? And how ingredients that you wouldn't have otherwise thought could be used in such ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's always great to try something new. So when you are going to put in some lemon zest into our mixture, so make sure you always wash your fruit well first. So you want to try and get anything that might be on the fruit off. If they're sprayed or sometimes they can be a little bit waxy. So I'm going to use something called a microplane. I think it's a fairly staple tool in most kitchens. So I am just going to zest right into my mixing bowl. Now a tip here, when you are zesting citrus fruit, they do have what's called a pith. So you just want to have it just so you can just see color here. You don't want to go where you see white because that's the pith and that can be very astringent. Okay, so we're going to do maybe this full lemon and a bit. And then I actually have an orange here too. So we're gonna put that in too. All right. So if you do not have a microplane at home, it's a really great investment. You can use it for Parmesan cheese. You can use it for citrus zest. If you're into making cookies at home and you want to have really sharp edges on your cookies, you can actually use your microplane to make them nice and smooth. But if you do not have a microplane, you can just use a standard kitchen knife. So I'll show you on this orange here. So I'm just going to cut off the bottom just so I have a nice stable surface. And then I'm just going to run my knife very carefully. And I'm just going to try and cut that top layer off. You can see here that this looks pretty good. We've got a little bit of the pith, but that's okay. And let's see, I'll take another little piece here. All right, so then what we're gonna do here is we're just going to slice this quite thin. Okay. Watch your fingers. Okay. And then I'm just going to cut this again, going the other direction into small little pieces. So again, remember when you're cutting and you're holding your knife, you always have your thumb in and around the back so it doesn't get cut. Okay, this looks good. It smells so lovely. And I know the original recipe actually had cranberries, but we were actually gifted some blueberries from Food for Life. So we are going to use those. And I am going to actually cut my lemon and I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice into my mix. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cup my hand over top and I'm going to squeeze my lemon. You'll be able to find out where you have your paper cuts. And I'll let the juice just kind of flow through fingers and then the seeds stay on top so they don't go into your cake. Okay. So I'm going to add just a little bit more just to emphasize the flavor. So maybe just one lemon. And I'm just seeing, did I get an escapee there? I did. All right. So we are going to put our paddle back on and give this a mix. So we don't want to over mix here. We're just gonna mix until incorporated, and then we're gonna add our almond and our baking powder. All right, so I'm just gonna put this in the side here. So that is gonna keep everything together and act as a binding agent. All right. If you really wanted to, you could make your own almond flour. And you can do that by just putting almonds in your food processor. Just be careful because almonds can be very oily. So when they heat up, they tend to all clump together, but it's nice when you can toast your nuts and then you can blend them yourself. Okay, so here's our mix. So it's, you can kind of see that it's a little lumpy looking, and that's perfect. This is what we're aiming for here. Okay, so I'm just going to give a little bit of a mix by hand, just making sure that you're getting to the bottom. Okay. And then we are using blueberries. So I'm going to add in roughly a cup of blueberries. I'm just going to go by eye here. And if you don't have blueberries, you can use, we can use frozen blueberries, or you can even use cranberries. That would be a nice touch for this time of year. So we're just going to gently fold in our blueberries.
Chef, could you use some of the ingredients we've used in the past, like pomegranate or persimmons at all in these kind of in this kind of cake?
I wouldn't use pomegranate. Persimmon, maybe you could make a sauce to go on top, or you could use the pomegranate molasses to, as a garnish.
What about apples?
Apples, you could maybe put in a little bit of applesauce in place of the butter, but I think that's all I would do there.
Mm-hmm. And what happens if you don't have almond flour?
If you don't have almond flour, then just feel free to use regular flour. It just obviously won't be gluten-free.
Right, right. Sorry, Daniel, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Daniel. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I've just got a 9-inch pan here. So what I like to do is I just like to use my spray, and I just do one little squirt in the bottom. And then I actually cut a piece of parchment paper. So what I did here was I have it on a sheet. So I laid it out, and then I just used my paring knife, and I went around the bottom of the pan just to mark where, like, what the circumference of my pan was. And then I just finalized with scissors. Okay, and then I just put that in the bottom here. So because we sprayed a little bit, it just holds the paper in place. And then just for good measure, I just give a little spray. Okay, so then this goes right in your 9-inch pan, and it goes into a 350-degree oven for about 40 minutes or so. And then you'll know that this is done when it's nice and golden on the top, and a toothpick inserted into the center is, it comes out clean. Okay. So then we've got this into the oven at 350 for about 40 minutes. So it might take a few minutes longer, depends on your oven. Okay, so we'll just kind of have an eye check at 40 minutes, but it might need another 5. So,
I'd be interested to know, Chef, how many people are following along with us? We have Sheena and Renata. I wonder if you guys are following along with Chef Laura, or if you're going to try this out as a dessert for your holiday Christmas meal.
it will actually freeze quite nicely as well.
Right.
So because we're the magic of television. We've got one that we've put in the oven. I've cooled it down. And then I'm just going to run a sharp knife just around the edges, just to loosen it from the pan here.
And Sheena's just mentioning, Chef, that she likes to watch first.
Yes.
To make sure. So you're, I'm sure this looks scrumptious to me. So I'm thinking, Sheena, maybe this is something that you can prep for.
Yeah, it's a super easy recipe, really quick to make. This is great if you're having mashed potatoes the night before and you're like, hey, I've got a cup of mashed potatoes to use up. What can I do with it? And this is a perfect way to use up those potatoes. So I'm going to flip this out. Okay. Take my parchment paper off. And then, even if you wanted to, if you were going to serve this at Christmas or your holiday, whatever you like to celebrate or just for fun, you could actually, here, I'll show you this flipping technique I was telling you guys about the other day with the shortbread that I couldn't do. Okay, so what you would do here, put your plate down here and then do the flip. Okay. So you could put it on a nice cake platter or whichever you'd like to do. And then we can dust it with a little bit of icing sugar. Okay. So here you go, and then you can just dust the top. Okay, and then even if you wanted to, you could decorate with some fresh fruit. If you have rosemary or thyme, you could actually have it around your cake as well. With the cranberries, you could actually put dried cranberries in with your blueberry. You can decorate it any way you like, actually. It would look beautiful as a centerpiece. And then just to slice it, just thin wedges, and you're good to go.
That looks scrumptious. And who knew that potatoes was used instead of flour? Fantastic.
Yeah, it's you know what? It's a great recipe. It uses up some leftovers, and then it freezes well, and it does have a nice texture, almost like a ricotta cake. If anybody has had that, it's quite lovely.
And you know, we have Renata, Chef, who, as you know, Tanya's mother, is saying looks lovely, and she's definitely going to try it. Chef, I think there's something you have to say, or you wanted to
I
say.
do. I have such a special thank you because look at the most loveliest special delivery I got today. So thank you so much. Oh my, it looks so delicious. I can't wait to try them. I might not even share them. Thank you so much.
You know what they say, Chef. Sharing is caring, and
They do say sharing is caring.
I'm all about caring. So I'm here if you want to share.
I hear what you're saying, Nabil.
Thank
And
you.
since you're a nice guy, I'll definitely share. But you know, sometimes I do a lot of sharing with my kids and then I don't get any.
Awesome. And uh, and
Aw,
and Oma's saying thank you so much. She's saying you're very welcome, Oma.
aw,
So
thank you.
fantastic. At this point, if anybody has any questions for Chef, please feel free to unmute yourself, or if you have a comment, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away or share away. But if you don't have any more questions, Chef, is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, just I think that give it a try. I think that you will be pleasantly surprised. And if you want to try it with the lemon and the orange, I think that's brilliant. If you just have orange, give it a go. If you wanted to try again with the pomegranates because they are in season, you could make the molasses and have a nice drizzle on top with the rosemary. I think it would be beautiful.
Awesome. And on that note, Chef, one question on my end here.
Mhm.
If you were to try this with like sweet potatoes, would the texture be different? Would it be a little sweeter or would it be much the same?
Well, the color would definitely be different. The taste would be a little bit different, but a sweet potato is a starchy potato, so it would actually work quite well. I
There we
think it
go.
might be a little bit more sweeter. I think that would be a really great experiment, Nabil.
Well, that's what I'm here for, just a factory of great ideas. But thank you so much, guys. We're back again next Wednesday, so just make sure you tune in next Wednesday at 7 p.m. as well. Way to end the new year. We're going to be talking about what to do with our holiday meal leftovers. Um, Chef Laura has some great suggestions, and we're going to be posting the recipes for what you can do. So make sure you check that out. Wow, you know what? I can't even wait any longer. I know we're going to do some quality control testing to make sure that all is up to standards. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a lovely, safe holidays. And for anybody celebrating, make sure you're safe. Chef, thank you so much as always. For anybody tuning in, thank you so much. And we hope to see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for coming, everyone.